Minister Mentoli. My name is Yuan, and I think I'm one of the few people in this room who's still studying. I'm from NUS. The reason why I'm standing up is that the odds are, if I'm lucky or unlucky, when climate change finally takes its toll on Singapore, I'll probably still be around. And so what actually just now at the end of your lecture, you actually mentioned something which I feel is very important, reducing consumption. Because so far the questions here have always revolved around how do we meet the increased demand? How do we find for renewable sources? How do we meet that? But very little emphasis is placed on how do we reduce the consumption. Take this conference, for example. The local delegates probably drove, the foreign delegates probably flew. And for example, early on during lunch, 2/3 of the buffet was still left there at the end of the session. So I would like to ask is that how can we as a community perhaps place a little more emphasis on reducing our consumption and changing our lifestyle as opposed to looking for solutions that don't seem to be appearing? Thank you.
I think we should study the Japanese carefully. They have spent a lot of time minimizing the amount of energy they take to produce a unit of product. That's where most of it comes from, producing products, manufacturing. We've got to become more efficient in the use of energy, and it can be done. Then in the case of Singapore, because of the air conditioning, we've got to have more green type architecture, where the heat load is prevented from increasing the need for air conditioning. And it does make a difference. At the Istana, which is an old building, you find there's a corridor around every room because they built it in the 1860s when there was no air conditioning, and you had this punkawala from India with a string tied to his toe, and he moves his toe about, and the cloth at the top keeps going in. Moves around and gives you some ventilation. Now we are building glass windows bang up against the sky. That requires. So we legislated a certain ratio of heat load, etc. And so what they did was they tinted the glass. What they should do is also not only tinting the glass, does not cut it off, as double glazing. But double glazing costs more money. But that technology could evolve. But these are big consumers of electricity. But what the individual can do is to make sure that you don't waste it. As our standard of living has gone up, you will see that all the heartlanders, even the three-roomers, have air conditioners, window air conditioners sticking out. But when the price of electricity goes up, they switch it off at nights. They have it on in the first half of the night, then it cools down, they switch it off, which is a sensible thing to do. These are things, and you've got to change your bulbs to low consumption bulbs. I don't know what they call them, lithium or whatever. I've got several at home, and as our old bulbs blow, we put in these new ones, which cost more but last longer and consumes less electricity. But in the home, the biggest consumer of electricity is the air conditioner. So don't overcool the place, and do not unnecessarily switch it on. Switch it off when it's not in use. If you go to most of our hotels, I find them colder than any European or American. Because they just leave it on. And you take this room. It's designed to carry the body heat of 500 to 700 people. We leave. The room is empty. The aircon is still going on to carry the heat load of 700 people, but none are there. So the temperature goes down and the thermostat doesn't quite work. It doesn't switch off. So I think I once went to I think it was in Turkey, Istanbul, and it felt spooky because when I sat still, the lights went off. When I moved, the lights came on. So I called the manager up. I said, "What's happening?" He says, No, these are sensors, so when there's nobody in the room, everything is switched off. Well, that's a clever gadget. And I think we should find the equivalent of that for the air conditioner. When you leave the room and the body heat is not there, it switches off. All these little things help to keep your utility bills down. When I leave my office, I switch my lights off and I said, switch off the air conditioner. But unfortunately, some of them are connected to the whole grid. So the whole floor is air conditioned. So I switch it off. Those who are using their rooms also lose the cooling. So there you are. So we've got to find ways and means to individualize the needs and save every bit that we can. That's how we've made it so far. And that's how we can continue to make it against more adverse circumstances.